Hi, everybody. I'm sorry I can't be with you today. As you know, um, my other half is not very well and she's actually in hospital right now. And I'll be going there shortly. Anyway, enough of that because what we need to do is we need to crack on with some leadership. And today I'm going to talk about a little bit of what we could, purpose. So if you remember Gill's six kind of elements to leadership, we had vision, and that was all about being able to communicate and define an appealing ideal for the future. And we talked about common ground sharing. We talked about its ability to bring people together, and you have the vision going forwards. Today, we're going to look at purpose, which is slightly different. Because purpose, we're looking at the common, we're looking at defining and communicating a valid and appealing purpose, e.g., the task, the way forward in that sense, as opposed to the strategy. Um, of course, then with the six, we have values, and the value is about reinforcing those values, what's important to the company, and supporting the vision. The vision and the purpose and the strategy. The strategy, again, on this element, if we think about this, we need to be able to define and communicate the strategies, and they are informed by the shared values, which of course have been informed by the purpose and the vision. So as you can see, it's working all the way through. Empowerment is the next stage, which of course we will then look at, and that is enabling people to do fundamentally what needs to be done, which is absolutely crucial when you think about this. And then we have the engagement, which is about the influence, the motivation. It enables people to do what needs to be done. That's the theory of practice and leadership by Gill, those six elements. So let's look at it. Purpose. Okay, this comes after vision, as I said. So the purpose here is the vision. So if you go back to vision, is how a company wants to look in the future. The purpose is really this. It's how it sees, how the organization sees the task. And this again is going to be fundamental in any part of leadership. If you can't see how to do the task, you're not going to be able to get it done, and you won't be able to do the rest of it, and your vision probably won't be shared, etc. So it all falls down at that point if you're not careful. Now, purpose could be interchanged with the word mission to a degree, and what is interesting is that an organization's purpose is its identity, the reason as to why it exists, the golden thread to which the strategy should be aligned. And this actually, of course, is then you take it on and go, the shared purpose takes the connection with the organizational's purpose one step further by all the employees. And of course, that means the shareholders and the stakeholders, etc., etc. So that's where we're going with this. So if we look at the purpose, we've got to think of it in terms of who are we? Now, who are we is a lovely question, isn't it? If I say to you, who are you? It's actually quite hard to answer. But if I ask, for example, one of your friends to describe who you are, that is actually easier. And companies, when we're looking at this, companies are in the same, organizations, companies are in the same situation. You've got to be looking at it from the perspective of, what business are we in? How is it seen? And this is key and crucial because if you just look at it, you've all heard the phrase, I cannot see the wood for the trees. Well, this is one of those classic things. When you are looking at who are we, we've got to look at it from the perspective of, yes, we kind of must understand, but we've also got to be open to see what the market and what the industry is and where we are and what our business, what business are we actually in? It's not just a travel company saying we sell travel. No, you're selling a dream. So you've got to really start to understand what's going on at that point. The second element to this is, what do we actually do? What are our markets? What does the audience want from us? So we can go into a little bit of detail there, but also why. The third part really is, why do we exist? This is our corporate values, our beliefs, our morals, the guiding light, our principles. And being able to define all of those is crucial to the purpose. You may actually want to go further. Now, those elements were by Gill, and I actually also think we should be looking at it, and this does creep into the realms of strategy a little bit, but we're going to be going on to strategy anyway for this part. But I would always suggest at this point, in terms of looking at it in terms of how do we do what we do? What is our thinking? What are our abilities? Our competencies? And I'm talking about, company competencies, organizational competencies. So these things are crucial. So, and if you think about it, a strategy is a plan to pursue your future. And so when we are looking about that thinking, it's also going to be crucial as to knowing to exactly where you are, which we will actually look at in a second. Purpose is bigger than an organization's ambition. It's bigger than their tactics, and it's bigger than their strategy. Many companies have many strategies, and you make options and choices as to which strategy you may use and go down. And sometimes, as you are very familiar, companies make the wrong turns and they use the wrong strategies. The BP was a classic when it came to their brand reputation, in terms of what happened with the Gulf of Mexico. Boeing did a similar thing with the 737 MAX, and they tried to blame pilots. So the strategy to deal with an element, and that was Boeing dealing with one of their elements of the company, and one of the problems they were having, and they happened to, I'm taking extreme examples, because Boeing, the first thing they decided to do was they decided to blame the pilots. I think it was Lion Air and Ethiopian, and this created so much bad will, etc. And it created an issue where that strategy clearly was the wrong strategy to go down. So you've really got to think about, how do we do what we're going to do, and what are we actually doing, and what are our tactics, what are our strategy, and what is the ambition. But think holistically about this. And the purpose here is crucial because it's the scope, because of its scope, and potentially its ambiguity. And if you remember, I mentioned VUCA to you before, and VUCA was one of those interesting ones where, if you look at it, it's not about a blame situation, it's about understanding what is happening. And just to remind you, it's volatility, it's uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And I think I mentioned to you before, if we relook at that, it's about how do we actually start looking at it from the perspective of volatility to vision, uncertainty to understanding, complexity to clarity, ambiguity to agility and adaptability. So purpose here is big, and it can cause a bit of ambiguity. However, if you look at it in the whole, what you can do is purpose becomes your moral DNA. it becomes your compass. That's going to be crucial. So let me take you on a little further. Common purpose. This is when leaders bring together groups. It could be creatively, doesn't really, all the elements of a group, and they're bringing them together. They're coalescing in one form. And this will happen when the tools and values and hopes, effectively, are all working as one, and they've come together and they're aiming towards that shared common goal. And that's your common purpose. And this is where we want to get purpose. We need that common purpose because that's going to be successful. Key point for leaders when they're looking at purpose. You want to uncover what basically makes you you. And it's suggested you should look at, and an exercise you can do is you look at activities that you have done in the past. And one of the ways you can do that is a very neat way, and it's called the OAAR analysis, OR. And the idea here is to look back and see and take activities that you've done and understand how you went about doing them. So one of these things could be, if you take the OR example, is what were the objectives of that particular activity and how were they set up? Who set them up? Did you set them up, etc.? The analysis behind this, what were the questions you had to actually ask of the objective in order to fulfill said objective? The actions. This is quite interesting because the actions were what actually fundamentally did you do? That's the simple stuff. And then the result, you're putting it back into context so you understand what has been done. And of course, the objective and the results need not always be the same need not always follow, because you've got to remember, if you're looking at strategy, for example, and you wanted to go from A to B, you have a start point A here, end point B over here, and the strategy in the middle, and it moves with time. So that moving with time means that your objective could have been changed as well. So bear that in mind when you're looking at these things. And you want to dig deep so you can take a macro thing and then you take it down further. And each action, for example, if you were to look at it from this perspective, actually creates a new objective, so you can drill down. And then you really understand, or a leader really understands, what were the key elements that enabled them to do this, that enabled and gave them the purpose, and gave them and shows that the competence, the ability, the capability that they used, and how they could actually bring that out. And that's something you might want to think about doing for yourselves. And I can give you more details about that when I see you next time. So your enabling journey allows you to look at it from the perspective of, what was your start point? So once you've looked at yourself with the, or looked at the leaders, looked at themselves with the OR example, for example, you could look at it in terms of, 1, where were you trying to go? What is your start point? Sorry. 2, where are you now? That's the key part. That's actually the bit which I've just been talking about. Where are you now? And understanding that point is absolutely crucial. Understanding your start point. What are the abilities, the capabilities, the strengths that you possess? What is your passion? And your passion comes not from saying I'm passionate about something, but by demonstrating that by what you have done and how you went about doing what you did. For example, possible options. As I said to you, Boeing had several options how they wanted to do one thing. They chose a particularly poor option when it came to the 737 MAX and all that disaster. And again, there's loads of examples of that. So what options are available to you, and why would you choose those options at any one point? Where are you going? Finally, where are you going? So this is really, I said you've got an A point and a B point, and this is really, where are you going now? What I'm also going to do is I'm going to put a link for Guy Kawasaki's innovation TED Talk from Berkeley. It's just got some really nice elements that I think you'll enjoy. And it's got curve jumping, which I think is really useful at this particular point because it shows how purpose can come into things. So I'll bring that in. I'll put that into the onto the Moodle for you. Sorry about stumbling there. I tried not to. Anyway, if we think about, just to kind of bring this to a close, purpose. There are 4 types of purpose when it comes to this. And one of the things which I think we should look at is discovery. To think about Star Trek, to go boldly go. So it's the exciting one. It's finding new realms. It's that whole exciting stuff. And Captain James T. Kirk or Jean-Luc Picard, whichever one is your star in that. So discovery. Then of course there's excellence, and excellence is perfection. It's the fulfilling a particular thing for the sake of fulfilling it, because you can and you want to, and it's going to be perfect. Altruism. Altruism is interesting because it's to help, and is there such a? I mean, we could have a philosophical debate about is there such a thing as altruism, because I give blood, for example, and it's to help, but at the same time, I feel good by doing it because I feel as I'm helping. Is that a bad thing? Don't know, but that's another debate. And of course, heroism. And that is that effectively demonstrating those achievements. So, to sum up, purpose is that whole thing of being able to define, communicate a valid mission, which is appealing. And it's that appealing element which is key, because then you can get the common purpose, the shared goal, the shared activities. You're working as one. And it comes naturally from your vision. And then we'll be able to talk about values next week. Now, I wish you all well, and I wish I were able to come and see you today. In the meantime, have fun, enjoy. I hope you've enjoyed this, and yes, you can see a bit of my house. And Keith, please go over your notes. There's a whole Prezzo deck that you can look at for all these details that I've just talked about. And what would be useful is just to do a little bit of further reading, and also maybe do a little bit of identifying for yourself what capabilities you think perhaps you might have as a leader. And we can share those when you come back. I am giving David your presentations, so he's going to moderate those with me. As you know, I've looked at them already, and we'd had a lovely time doing that, so I thank you for that. And in the meantime, I wish you well, and I will see you next Tuesday. Okay, bye-bye, take care.